So welcome to the painting class. This is the acrylic painting class. And tonight starts the three-week class. It's 1 hour per week. And we're going to start, I actually didn't really do the introduction, but maybe we can talk at the end about that. And I'm going to start by saying that the goal of this class is to get the creative juice going. So just do what you can, and don't worry too much if you make a mistake. This is to have fun and to learn to play with the colors. I'm going to teach the basics of how to paint with acrylics tonight. And so the basic concepts will be utilized. Now, at any time, if you find this too easy for you, you can always decide to paint, to paint something while you're listening to my demonstrations and my talk. And then you can let me know, you can show us at the end. So I'm going to, because this class is for all levels, so some of you are complete beginners, and some of you have been taking classes with me for a while, so you'll be considered intermediate, and some of you may even be advanced. All right, so I'm going to talk about the supplies that we utilize in class, starting with the paints. So for this class, you would only need 3 colors plus white. And the colors are primary yellow, alizarin crimson, and ultramarine blue. And the white will be titanium white. So the brand that I use for my demonstrations are they are Student's brand, and this student grade is the Blick. It's the Blick acrylic, studio acrylic. So this is sufficient for this class. You can also use the Liquitex Basics acrylic color. So this one is a different color, but anyway, a tube like this, they have smaller tubes. That's also acceptable. If you want a professional grade, Liquitex offers the heavy body acrylic. That's a professional grade. Or you can also use Winsor & Newton Galleria acrylic. So this type of paint is the one that I use when I paint paintings. And there's many other brands. These are just some examples of what's out there. Now, in terms of brushes, I don't know about you, but I like a lot of brushes. You don't need to have that many for this class. Just a couple of brushes will do, and they don't have to be extremely big. So I'll just show you a couple few. Where's this one? Oh, here it is. Okay. So the brushes that I use for the class are synthetic, and I'm showing you 4 of them. You only need like 1 or 2 for the class. We're not going to paint a whole lot, but having a medium size is a good idea, and then a smaller one like either this one or this one or this one. So these 2 brushes here, they are called flat because they are very thin on this side and wider on this side, so they are square and they're called flat brushes. This one here, if I compare it with the other one, it's also flat when I turn it sideways, but the tip is round here, so it's called a filbert. And the third one here, this one here is a smaller one, and it's round because even when I turn it like this, it continued to be exactly the same. So you can tell that it's completely round, whereas This one is flat. So the round one is also a good one. So a couple will work. Now, some of you have asked me in the past, what is the number? And because each brand has their own numbering, a 6 in one brand and a 12 in another brand might be exactly the same. So there are many different kinds. I like this one. I bought this at Michael's Princeton Art and Brush. But these other ones are all different. Anyway, so that's for the brushes. And then for the palette, what I use in my studio is I use a glass palette. But what I recommend that you use, and this is what I use when I go out painting in plein air, is I'll show you. It's a paper palette. So this here is a paper palette that I just tape it to a masonite board, because this way it's all nice and tight. I bought the Blick brand. So this is the size. It's 12 by 16. You can also buy 9 by 12 or 11 by 14. I like the 12 by 16 because it gives me a nice large surface to paint and mix my paint. So when you buy it, in this one, there's 50 sheets. So it's very inexpensive. And sometimes you can buy this and the sheets are taped at the top and at the bottom. So all you have to do, you open the cover and you're all set. You don't need to put it on a masonite. All right. And well, I'll show you now. So this is the palette that I use in my studio. It's a glass palette. It's much larger. So it's a piece of glass that I taped to a foam core. I duct taped it to the foam core, and I can mix all my my paints on here, and at the end I take a razor blade and I can scrape it off. All right, so that's for, and of course I have a bowl of water and some paper towels, but I want to say something about the canvas that we're going to use. So for this class, I suggested that you buy acrylic paper. Acrylic paper comes in different format. The 9 by 12 is a good format. And I like this paper. It's 246 pounds, so it's very thick. And if you look at the paper, I'm going to try and show you, it has a grain on it. So I don't know if you can see the grain. Anyway, it has a little bit of a grain on it. So this is very good for the exercises that we're going to do in class. Now you can also use a canvas pad. So a canvas pad, it's a canvas that is put on like a cardboard. You buy it like this. This is Frederick's brand, F-R-E-D-R-I-X. There are other brands that make these boards, and they're very convenient when you go outside painting. They don't take a whole lot of space. Or if you go painting in Europe, then it's easy to bring those with you because they take a lot less space than if you have a stretch canvas. And once you frame them, it looks the same. So stretch canvas is like this. If you look on the back, you can see that it's been stretched on stretcher bars. And this one offers a little bit of a bounce, whereas the other one didn't. So you can use this as well, but it's not necessary for this class. All right. Any questions on the art supplies that I've showed so far? You can unmute yourself if you want to ask the question. No questions. Okay. So I want to show you a painting that I did. just as an example of what can be done with acrylic paint. So this is, it's a glass, it's just a martini glass. And as you can see, it's empty because why leave it in the glass when you can drink it, right? Anyway, now, unless there is any questions about what I have said so far, we're going to move right into an exercise with the paint. One more thing I wanted to show. Yes. So as part of the exercise, we're going to use just two colors, the red and the green. And if I show you this color wheel, you can see the red is right here at the top, and the green is right here, opposite red at the bottom. So red is a primary colors, and its complement on the color wheel will always be opposite red. So the primary color is red, and its complement is green. The other two primary colors are yellow and blue. So we have three primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. And there are three secondary colors, which are the complementary to the primary. So in front of red is the green. So this is a secondary color. Orange is the other secondary color, and purple is the third one. Those who have taken classes with me before, I have you make one of these your own personal color wheel using the ultramarine red, the alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, and the primary yellow. And so the primary colors are in the squares. The secondary colors, purple, orange, and green, are in the circles. And the tertiary colors are the ones with the little drop-like circle. So the lime green, turquoise, indigo, magenta, red, orange, and Indian yellow. So tonight we're only going to work with the red and the green. So if you're going to be painting with me tonight, now's the time to take out your paint and put them on your palette. So I'm going to go like this. I want to make sure that you can see my palette, and also you can see my painting surface. This will be good. All right, so you won't need a whole lot, but when you lay out your paint on your palette, always go from light to dark. So the primary yellow is the lightest color that we're going to use. Then we have the alizarin crimson, which is in the middle. And then there is ultramarine blue, which I had from this afternoon. Now we're going to use red and green, but we do not have any green. So we're going to make the green. To make the green, if I show you the color wheel, so to make the green is between primary yellow and ultramarine blue on the color wheel. That means you're going to need some blue and some yellow mixed together to make the green. So you take a good amount of blue. I want to make sure that you guys can see. And now, before I take the yellow, I'm going to clean my brush. Take a good amount of yellow and mix it up together. So now I have a nice green right here. And the red is the red out of the tube. So I hope that you guys are going to follow and do this exercise with me. Since this will be, we'll just use the top part of the sheet. This is a piece of the acrylic paper that I taped to a masonite board, so it's nice and hard. If you have it in the little acrylic paper pad, you can just open the pad and put it there, and you're all set to go. So using my green color, I'm just going to put some green on one side. So I load up my brush with quite a bit of paint, as you can see. Michelle, you'll like this because we're painting thick. And I'm just going to put some of my green on this side here like this until I have no more on my brush. It's almost gone. Yes. And I'm going to put my brush into the water and take another brush. I have another one that's the same, so it's easy for me. If you don't have another brush, just clean your brush thoroughly, and that means shake it into the water and then wipe it on the paper towel. If it still shows color, you have to go again until when you wipe it, it's completely colorless. Now this one, I could use this one if I wanted to, but I'm going to use my other one and take a good amount of red, and this red will go on this side. This is alizarin crimson. It's a transparent acrylic color, and but it's a nice dark color nonetheless. So I'm just going to put the red on this side. Now what happens if we mix these two colors together? That's what we're going to experiment tonight. So take a good amount of red and put it aside. And take an equal amount of green, mix it with the red that you just put there. And now with this, we're going to paint right in between right here, just to experiment what color we can make with a mix of the red and the green. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting a nice, rich, warm brown. And so now we're learning about, what other colors we can do when we just mix two colors together. And so what I'm going to do now is take some red and take just a teeny little bit of green to paint in this area. So I'm going back with my red brush. I'm putting it here, and I'm going to clean completely the brush before I go. And I take a teeny little bit of green and I mix it up with this red. So now it's going to be a red which has just a little bit of green in it. And it's going to give me a color that is between the red and the brown. And eventually we'll have a gradation here. So this is not a complete red like the alizarin crimson red. Need to make a little bit more. And it's not a brown like this brown, but it's an in-between color. Now here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start with my red, add just a teeny little bit of red in it. So start with the green. So I'm taking a lot of my green that I made. I put it here. I take just a teeny little bit of red. I mix it in it. And I'm going to put it here. So now we have a green that has a little bit of red in it. and it gives me a nice, just a tad darker of a green, and it's not yet a full-fledged brown like I have there. There. So this exercise is basically to learn all the different colors that you can make just by mixing two colors. So you could go to the store and buy all these different colors in the tube and just press it out of the tube and paint with it. However, by mixing the red and the green, you can get an infinite number of colors, and it will be very harmonious, and it will create paintings that are even more interesting and less flat. So I just did this exercise. I showed you how to do this exercise. Now, do you guys want a moment to try it on your own? Please unmute yourself to answer. So for the next step, what we're going to do is we're going to paint a shape that's somewhat like an egg. An egg is round, but it's kind of like all oval. I mean, I have an apple here, but that's from another class that I did. And to paint this, we're going to use the red and the green again. Now, if you don't have any green left, now's the time to mix another batch of your green. So I'm gonna go like this, and I'm going to mix another batch of my green by using blue and yellow. If your green seems to be a little too dark, just add some yellow to it. If he seems to be too light, just add more yellow, add more blue to it. I mean, ultimately, I think it takes a little bit more yellow than blue to do a mid-range green. So this is my green that I made. And so now I have a good amount of green here, and I have my red. And to paint the egg, I start with a very clean brush. And I'm going to use a nice red to paint my egg. So using my red, I'm just going to paint my egg. And I will, I invite you to do the same thing. The great thing with acrylic is that you can always use a little bit of white to correct anything that doesn't seem to be quite exact. So now the first layer that we're going to do is we're going to do an egg that is approximately the same shade all the way around. That's my egg. Maybe should be a little bit bigger here. I can always make it a little bit bigger like this. There. And the egg usually is not floating in the air. So this is my egg. So it's a nice red egg. The colors are not extremely precise, but this is just the first layer. And when we come back with the second and third layer on top, we'll be able to make the colors a little bit more full. And that's when we'll do nuances on the the light side versus the dark side. And this this egg should not be floating in the air. So we're going to put it on a table. And to do the table color, I'm going to use a nice mix of the red and the green. And so I'm going to use this color here. So this, to make this color here, I use a lot of red and a little bit of green to make this color. So let's try to create this. So I use my red. And Michelle will not like that, but I'm going to put some water in this. I just dipped my brush into water to add some water. And just take a teeny little bit of my green and I put it in the mix. Maybe a little bit more. Now I'm getting this color, which is about this color here. And the edge of the table should be maybe 1/3 up. 1/3 up from the bottom of the egg, so about here. And using this nice red-brown color, I'm going to paint the table. So as you do this, make sure that you cover the white all the way to under the egg. You don't want to have any white there. And that the table is approximately straight. It's okay if you go over the egg a little bit with this color. So we have a table that is, it's not the red of the egg. It's more like a brown red. There. So we have the egg and a table that is kind of a brownish color. And for the background, we're going to paint a nice green color for the background. And so make sure that if you're changing color, you want to make sure that you completely clean your brush before you do. And using some nice green, you can use a little water in this green. We're going to paint the background around the egg. Go all the way to here. So as you paint around the egg, it's okay if you go a little bit over the egg with this green. Not too much, but you just want to make sure that you don't leave any white. And if it goes on it too much with a clean brush that has just a little water on it, you can just go like this over it and it will remove it. There. So I keep going with my green all the way around the egg. There. So because the red and the green are complementary colors, it's almost like the egg is glowing with all this green around it. I'm going to let you complete this this step. of doing all these three areas. I'll give you like another 5 minutes. And then after that, I will show you how to do the shading on the egg. If there are any questions from anyone, please don't hesitate. Now you can see my palette and you can see my egg. So first is I'm going to use some of this nice red. And in this red, I'm going to get some green. This will give me a darker, much darker red. I think I want a little bit more green. That'll give me more of this color right here in the middle. And because I didn't use a whole lot of water, it's coming on very thick. But I'm going to use a little bit of water. And so I'm putting my shadowy area here at the bottom. Now I'm going to clean my brush completely of this brown. Dip into the red, just a plain red, and continue here. So this way it creates a gradation. And as I come up, then I continue with the red. And now I'm going to mix some of the red with a little bit of white, not too much. We want to accompany Aaron. And with this, now I can create a lit area of the egg. Maybe just a tad more of the white. There. Now, as we add white to a color, it becomes a pasty color. I'll show it to you a little closer. Now I painted a little thicker, but see how this area here is the red with the green in it, like the color we made here. That looks shadowy. And then on top here, I added the red with the white in it, and in the middle is just a plain red, but thicker. I want to let all of this dry. Meanwhile, I want to indicate the shadow on the table. So if you have used the white, make sure you completely clean your brush. You don't want any white to paint the shadow. And this table here, the platform, we did this using red plus just a little bit of green. So we actually did use, we used this color here, which is red with just a little bit of green here. This is the color that we use for the platform. So to make the shadow here, we're going to go one step further and add even more green to our red. And it's going to become almost the same color that we have on the egg. Starting with the red, I have my red here, and adding the same amount of green to my red. Just going to add a little water to it. And now I'm going to paint the shadow. The shadow will go like this. There. And once you've painted your shadow, you want to let it dry. But the edge of the shadow away from the object should be smoother. So all of this here should be a smooth edge. And this comes with practice. Whereas the edge of the shadow closer to the object could be a darker, a sharper edge. And this is something that you can study on your own. Next time you go to your kitchen, you can put an object on the table and put a light on it and look at the shadow. See if the shadow is sharp or smooth, closer to the object versus further away from the object. So now we have a shadow and we have the egg, but the top of the egg where we used a lot of white in it looks a little pasty. So I'm gonna clean my brush and get more of my red, a little water in it. I still want to have it a certain thickness to it. So there's no white in this, just the red with water, right, Erin? Okay. And I'm gonna come back here on top of my egg so that it doesn't look too pasty. There. And Gail, you were asking about the brush stroke. So with this red, you can go back on top of the shadowy area that is already dry. And now this gets the brush strokes to be blended in a little bit more. And when there is a light that shines on an object, what always helps is to see the speckle of light. To indicate the speckle of light, you need to completely clean your brush. Once it's completely clean, you can take just a little amount of white on your brush and just do one little brush stroke and then leave it. You don't play with it. So I'm going to put a little brush stroke right here. And that's my speckle of light. And maybe there's another little one right here. Ooh, okay. So now we have an egg with a green background and a shadow on the table that is brown. Yes, there is homework in this class, of course. So homework is pretty simple. The first homework will be, I suggest that you redo this exercise here. Yeah. Try to do, from green to red or from red to green. When you redo the exercise, you can start, let's say you start with the red and you have your green on your palette. And then you add a little bit, and then you do a stripe. You add a little bit more green, you do another stripe. And a little bit more green, you do another stripe. All the way to when you have no more red, and you just put the green itself. Good way to learn how to do your how to do the colors.
But that was green enough.
The second exercise will be if you want to redo the egg. Now you can do it and have an egg as your example, or maybe you can just do an apple. You try to shine a light on it, and when you do the egg, try to use again the red and the green. You can make the egg either red or green, and vice versa. So if you do the egg green, then do the background red, and vice versa. But use the complementary color to create the shadow area. All right, so that's the second homework. There's a third homework. Yes, there is. And that is look through your photos, magazines, books, even online, and try to find a simple photo of a bird, and you can try to do a little drawing of that bird. So because next week we're going to start painting the bird, we're going to use a 9x12 like this. So if you practice doing a drawing of the bird, don't draw just a little bird that would fit like right here. It'll take the whole, the whole picture. And I will have an example for class, but next week. But you could use your own example. That's even more fun. Try to find a simple subject matter, simple bird, and just a bird like on a branch, not a bird that's like hoo hoo hoo. Okay.